Welcome everyone to What's New in QuickBooks Desktop 2021. This recording was made on September 10th, 2020. My name is Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor, and I might be the first person doing a webinar in this topic. So I'm going to be the guinea pig here. I might not get everything 100% right. I might miss some things. I might be speculating about something that works or doesn't work, or based on what I'm observing, it's happening. But hopefully you'll get sort of a first look of what's going on with the new version of QuickBooks Desktop 2021. Now let's do a quick summary of the features that we'll be talking about today. We will be focusing on the Windows version of QuickBooks. There is a Mac version of QuickBooks in 2021, but we'll just mention those briefly. The most important feature is going to be improved bank feeds. We'll discuss that in detail. Then we're going to be talking about customer groups and automated statements, aka payment reminders. These are actually kind of tied together. Then we'll be discussing customizing payment receipts. We'll briefly discuss the improved matching workflow for QuickBooks payments users. There's a new PDF preview for emailing uh, invoices or forms that contain attachments to it. There's an improved employee setup screen and a payroll liability reminder that QuickBooks can push into your calendar. There is what is likely to be the sexiest and the most marketing friendly new feature here, um, which is going to be receipt management. And I got my own opinions about that one, but that is going to be probably the biggest one that you're going to see, the biggest one that is going to be marketed. That's a big one. That's a sexy one to market. Then we're going to have batch delete sales orders, landed costs can now use cost to goods sold accounts, requiring serial numbers and lot numbers, which I'm particularly excited about, and showing alternative vendors in inventory reports like a valuation report or a stock status report. So that's what you're likely to see highlighted on 2021 QuickBooks Desktop. There might be one or two tiny things that we've missed that is not in the marketing messaging and I haven't discovered, and maybe that will show up later on, and maybe there'll be a part two to this webinar to talk about those things. So, table of contents for today. I'll talk about my thoughts, my personal opinion only about the overall strategy that Intuit is putting forth for 2021. This might affect you more if you're an accounting professional or a reseller or a QuickBooks Pro advisor, one that kind of deals with this stuff in wonky ways. For the end users, it's not really such a big deal. We'll talk about the Plus edition of QuickBooks Desktop, and we'll talk about the Diamond edition of QuickBooks Desktop. This is something that's not necessarily new, but it's going to be pushed more and more in in uh, in the marketing messaging. So it's important to discuss. We'll briefly go over QuickBooks Mac, and then we'll break down all the features based on what version of QuickBooks they are for. All right, so let's get started. So in 2021, what I observe, what I understand, what I think, it's the strategy for Intuit is they're going to continue to push upgrades into QuickBooks Online Advanced with the focus of trying to get QBO to be at par with traditional desktop users, to get more traditional desktop users to move into QuickBooks Online Advanced. So in the next 6 months, the next year, you might not see a whole lot of new features coming out in QuickBooks Online. The core products, Essentials Plus, you're going to see a lot more coming into QuickBooks Online Advanced, and you might see the stuff that we care about. When I say we talk about my firm, which is inventory related and job costing type of stuff. But for now, that is what the strategy looks like. Intuit announced that we're going to acquire TradeGecko, and I think TradeGecko is an e-commerce app. Is an inventory management and e-commerce management app. So I think that acquisition, when it finishes, if it finishes, it would be aimed to try to close the gap for the shortfalls that QBO has in the inventory world. So I think that's going to be a sort of a perfect storm where QuickBooks will continue to push new features into QBO Advanced. And once TradeGecko gets completely assimilated into the QBO ecosystem, it might be just part of the advanced SKU. Who knows? I don't have any inside baseball on this. I am a contractor for Intuit, and many times I do get inside information. I have no information about this, so I can freely talk about my opinion and my opinion only. Now, one thing that's interesting is there was no there was no Mac uh, there was no Mac desktop products during 2017, 18, or 19. Actually, there was a 19, as a matter of fact. So I'll take that back. Um, so no 17 or 18, but they continued to do 19, 20, and 2021. So for some reason, it looks like Intuit wanted to kind of skip out of the Mac world, and they snapped back out of it back into it in 2020. And now we're 2019 and 2020, and we continue to see more support. Now, I personally, as a consultant, I'm seeing less and less small business owners using QuickBooks Desktop for Mac. I'm getting less support calls about it. I can't tell you, I don't have the numbers to tell you for sure that these are dwindling numbers, that we have less Mac users. But in my observation, I am seeing less. So I'm going to make the assumption that the there's less Mac desktop users. Those Mac users are probably going to QBO for the most part. And then there's going to be, which is probably going to be the biggest push you're going to see this year, is the push to the annual subscription into the core Pro Premier products. It is absolutely clear to us that QuickBooks or Intuit only wants to sell monthly or annual subscriptions. They don't want to sell boxes anymore. They don't want to sell permanent license anymore. So in 2021, they will continue to sell Pro Premier. That is a thing. You can still buy permanent licenses for it, but you're gonna see the push, or they're gonna sell or offer the Plus product first. And one of the ways that they'll kind of dangle that carrot in front of the end user is they're gonna take their sexiest new feature for QuickBooks 2021, which is a new mobile-driven receipt management feature, and only add that to their Plus SKU. So before 2021, whenever you got Pro Plus or Premier Plus, the only thing you got is support and annual updates. Now in 2021, Plus also gives you access to an additional feature. So that's a big shift in strategy. Now, what kind of things are you going to see in the Plus world, especially when people you have, if you're an accounting professional or a pro advisor that's dealing with customers that come to you and say, hey, what's the difference between QuickBooks Pro and Pro Plus? It's the same software essentially. It's all desktop based, local file. You can deal with unlimited company files, but they're gonna pull the regular Pro Premier permanent licenses from the retail stores. So when people go to Staples, Office Depot, Best Buy, whatever, to buy the box, it's going to be the Plus annual subscription only. I'm not sure what the Amazon strategy is. I sure hope they pull it as a reseller, obviously, in a selfish way. I hope that they pull their regular product from Amazon as well. That way, only resellers and direct Intuit phone sales can handle those permanent license sales. I think I give it maybe another 3 years until you will not ever be able to buy any sort of QuickBooks as a permanent license. Annual subscription is here to stay. This is the strategy moving forward. Now, these Plus subscriptions include customer support. Now, I put that in quotes because in my opinion, calling into a customer support is flipping a coin. Like you might get someone to help you, or you might not, or it might just be a complete waste of time. I believe the pro advisor community, the consultants, are going to be, even though they cost money versus calling 1-800 Intuit or whatever, they're going to get the solution faster. QuickBooks tech support on the desktop world has just gone down the drains in the last couple of years. I do find every once in a while someone helpful, but you know, customer support is not the same thing as accounting support. So someone may ask, "Hey, how do I create an invoice?" There we go. But then when they ask, what kind of account should I use? That's where tech support kind of stops. So that's the real challenge that we have. Now, the online backup, which has worked for many years, probably 9 to 10 years, will continue to be offered under the Plus subscriptions only. This is like a $10 a month, $100 a year uh, type of thing. Um, and automated access to upgrade. So because you're paying annually, when 2022 comes out, 23, whatever, you will have access to that. And as I mentioned earlier, there would be Plus only exclusive features such as receipt management. Now, release dates. If you are a QuickBooks Pro advisor or someone that pays for the QuickBooks Desktop Accountant Plus subscription or the QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise Accountant subscription, the version it's available now. You can go to camps.intuit.com and you can download your QuickBooks 2021, install it, and start playing with it. I have not seen an official date for Pro Premier Plus, or I have not seen an official date for the Core Pro Premier and Enterprise offerings. My guess is just like every year, it's going to be somewhere in the middle, late September to early October. It's been like that traditionally, but I don't want to speculate on that. Now, you're going to see a push to the new Diamond edition of QuickBooks Enterprise. So what they've done with the Diamond Edition is they've increased the ability to have more users. So now you're going to have the ability to get to 40 users, which was previously capped on 30 users. They will bundle T-sheets, and there's an additional cost per employee, but it's really marginal. They will bundle T-sheets, they will bundle assisted payroll, and they will have the ability to bundle CRM integration add-on for Salesforce customers. Obviously, this Diamond edition is focused more in the mid-market, larger company, someone that needs the 40 users. To give you an idea on pricing, QuickBooks Enterprise Diamond starts at $319 per month for a one user, and it goes all the way to 1100 1123 $1,123 per month for a 40 user license. And then you have the additional add-ons if you're going to use T-sheets, payroll, hosting, or Salesforce integration. So that's going to be the new Diamond edition. I don't know how Intuit is going to pull this off, because I use a lot of QuickBooks Enterprise. I have people with 10 users, 20 users, and that's already pushing the limits of what the software can handle. So I can't even imagine a working, functional QuickBooks Enterprise with a 1 gigabyte file with 40 users, even working in a workable way. So I'm really excited to see what is their product management team going to do about this. How are they going to upgrade their system and their database uh, uh, in a real relevant way. So that they could actually have functional 40 users working in QuickBooks Enterprise. That's my rant. It's a little bit complicated conversation because I am a reseller. I do sell this product, but then I'm also the guy that supports it and the person that responds to the customer when it doesn't work. Now, I wanted to give you a quick reminder. There's nothing new in the 2021 world on the Platinum Edition, but I think it's important to just kind of have a quick refresher, because QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum and Diamond are the premium offerings. So, real quick, if you're working with QuickBooks Platinum or Diamond, you're going to have, well, actually, specifically with Platinum, you're going to have enhanced payroll with no additional per employee costs, multiple inventory site locations, USB barcode support, FIFO inventory valuation tracking, serial or lot number tracking, ability to track landed costs, alternative vendor support, and the new, partially new, is from 2018, Android mobile warehouse app that can have a built-in barcode and can do pick, pack, ship, PO receiving, and cycle counts. So it's actually really important to uh, to mention that. Now, QuickBooks Desktop for Mac 2021. In the slides, there is a link to a video that talks about every single one of these new features they added in 2021. Now, I'm going to go over them, but I'm not going to demo them because I'm going to focus on the Windows editions. Automated payment reminders. Basically, you can schedule QuickBooks to email customers when the invoices are overdue. combine multiple emails. That's if you have, for example, one customer that owes you on three different invoices. Instead of emailing them the three invoices in one shot, you can have one email combined and have multiple transactions in a single email. You can refund the customers via credit card. So if you're using QuickBooks Payments, you can press refund in QuickBooks Mac desktop and process a refund. All these things have been available in QuickBooks Desktop already. Send statements with an e-payment option. This is huge. We don't have this in the Windows world. I wish we had this in the Windows world, which is being able to send or email your customer a statement and have a link so people can pay the entire statement electronically with QuickBooks Payments. I wish we had this in the Windows world. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that they are working on this and this will be released in the middle of 2021 at some point. If they were able to figure it out on the Mac, I figured why not? You can have multiple email templates, something that existed in the Windows world for a very long time. They improved the sort of the desktop file manager and the on-screen restore and backup workflow in the Mac. Now you can print reports with color shading, and so you can actually highlight the sub accounts and the parent accounts actually. And it now supports multiple tax codes, something that's been in the desktop world for like a very long time only. Somebody's asking what version of Mac OS you need to have. I really don't know. I would say I'm going to venture to say that you need to be in Catalina in the latest version of QuickBooks Mac OS. Period. I think almost always this is kind of an expectation in the Mac world because of security and all that stuff. You're probably going to have to be on the latest version, which means your computer, your Mac, needs to be fairly recent. All right, so let's talk about what they call the slipstream updates. Now, these are updates that are going to be advertised in the 2021 marketing information. So when you look into buying 2021, this is going to be included as a 2021 feature. However, the features that I'm listing here were also updated in 2020 in either R5, R7, or R8. So you might see these things in 2020 as well if they're working on the latest version. So one is a PDF preview for emailing forms with attachments. So now when you're going to go email the form with attachments, you can quickly preview the attachment before hitting send. That's huge for people not sure if the attachment contains the relevant information on that email. You also has an improved employee setup workflow and really cool payroll liability reminders. We have some screenshots on that. Now, for QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum or Diamond users, in 2020 R5 and 2021, they updated the landed cost feature and they are allowing you to use a cost of goods sold account instead of a current asset account. That's extremely important. I was a big voice for that. That was my biggest pet peeve when landed cost came out. I requested that. I know many other pro advisors and resellers requested that. So I'm really thankful that they made that update. They also added alternative vendors in the inventory stock status reports. That's both in 2020 R8 and in 2021. And what Intuit might have thought was a little thing is there's now an option to require serial numbers and lot numbers to be used in transactions. Before this update that came in QuickBooks Enterprise 2020, you can warn the user, hey, you forgot to use your serial number. Hey, you forgot to put a lot number. Now you can actually stop the user from saving the transaction if that serial number or lot number is missing. Believe it or not, that's a huge update, but huge, huge, huge for people that deal with serial number and lot numbers. So they updated this in 2020 R8, but somehow forgot to add this in QuickBooks Enterprise 2021 Release 1. So it's not in Release 1, but it's supposed to be in Release 1. I believe this was an error, right? Or basically a slip up. I'm sure that on R2, R3, on the new upcoming versions that we'll get in October and November, they will add this feature in there. To me, this is probably about the best news I have heard in the world of QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum with serial numbers and lot numbers. Okay, so here's a screenshot of what the attachment preview looks like, which basically allows you to look at the attachment before you email the customer the invoice with the attachments. So again, great, added in 2020 R5, and it's being advertised as a 2021 feature. Also, you can add a payroll reminder to your favorite calendar app. So if you got Outlook or some sort of calendar app, QuickBooks will push a calendar entry with that payroll liability. So the very last day you have to make that payroll payment, it's going to be pushed into your calendar. This is big. This is huge. I'm not sure how many people are going to be using this, just because of the dynamic of, whether you use Outlook calendar or some sort of calendar that QuickBooks is that can interact with. Because I would have no idea how this would work with like a Google Calendar type of app. I haven't tested it. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but everything points to that it needs to be a native desktop calendar application. I might be wrong, so I'm on the record saying that I don't know. Landed cost option. This is technically old news, but it's being advertised in the 2021 release. You can either use other current asset or cost of goods sold as your landed cost default account. And this is the one thing that I was mentioning that was huge. You can now make it mandatory, in other words, make it mandatory for the user to have to use a serial number or lot number. And what's really, really cool as well is you can pick which of the items in your item list will obey by this. So you can actually override the item, and you can have this as a global feature that makes it mandatory for you to use serial numbers and lot numbers across all items, and then individually pick the items that it's okay for them not to use a serial number and a lot number. I haven't seen this in 2021. This was released like a week ago, so I haven't used it with a client yet. But right now, I'm telling you, this is brilliant. Right, this is brilliant, and if this works, hopefully it does work. This is a brilliant update. It's extremely important for inventory people like me to have this feature on. Now, this is a kind of an interesting one, partially useful, which is you can now add an additional column in your inventory reports, like a valuation report or inventory status report by item. You can now add a column that shows you all the alternative vendors that that item is being used as well. Again, this is a enterprise enterprise platinum or diamond only type of update. All right, so we've gone through, like, let's call it the boring stuff. That's the stuff that most people are not going to be dealing with, because none of that stuff was the sexy stuff. This is going to be the big one. This is going to be sort of the core stuff that's going to be marketed. So let's start with improved bank feeds. Now I'm going to go over the points, and then I'm going to switch over to the software and work on it as a demo so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But what I like about the new improved bank feeds is it does enhance the visibility and legibility of the transactions. You can sort all the columns, and they kind of stay sorted. If you're a experienced QuickBooks desktop user, you know that in previous bank feeds, you sort it, and then you kind of have to cross your fingers to hope that it stays sorted, because at any point in time, QuickBooks can decide to resort that list, and that was very frustrating in the bank feeds world. For a very long time, since 2014, QuickBooks Desktop Bank Feeds has been broken like that. We've been working with we've been making do with this broken feature for 6 years. So hopefully now, with this new improved bank feeds and this focus on getting bank feeds operational in a good way, in a functional way, this is going to be a really positive thing for us. You can filter by dates or transaction type, which is awesome. I already found a bug with it. It kind of works, but it looks like they're gonna fix it. But it's actually a huge, huge thing. Um, you can filter by any text. By far, my favorite feature of this whole thing, and I'll demo that. You can edit the memo on the fly in the main grid. That is so awesome. I mean, it's unbelievable how valuable that is, because many times you're entering data in the bank feeds, and you want to enter a quick note in your memo, and you don't want to click on add detail and open up a new screen and look for the field. So that's actually huge. And shift click. Now you have to be a real nerd, a real nerd to listen to shift click and get excited when you hear that. But shift click is it's an incredibly powerful tool when you're doing batching, and they also added batch modify. Now I'm gonna point out the things that they didn't fix or the things that they still need to fix. One, you cannot match a credit card charge to an open bill. Okay, that's just a problem that we've had for a very long time. They didn't fix it. They didn't address it in this update. I was hoping that they did. You still cannot import and export bank rules the way you can do it with QuickBooks Online. That would be cool, especially if you're managing multiple files and it takes a very long time to create a really good bank rules set. And sometimes, as an accountant dealing with multiple companies, I want to be able to take like this bank rule setup and duplicate it across multiple customers to save me time. QuickBooks Online has that. I wish QuickBooks Desktop had that. No customer job field in the main grid. I mean, like I love the fact that they added a field for the memo, but I still cannot select my customer job in the main grid. I literally have to click on more details and then select the customer job. For construction companies, this is a huge problem. You do need to have that customer job screen, and it's not available in the bank rules either. So even though that's kind of a tricky one, I wish they had that, and the inability to collapse the top area. To me, this is a huge design problem, and this is where you can tell the engineers built this and designers didn't, where half the screen is pretty much useless. All right, so let's step out of the presentation slides for a minute, and let's go to the software. All right, so I'm launching here QuickBooks. I have QuickBooks Enterprise 2021 uh, open, and just to be clear, this works in Pro, Premier, Accountant. All the desktop editions have the new improved bank feeds. I'm going to go in the banking menu, and then I'm going to go into bank feeds, and then I'm going to click on bank feeds center. Actually, let me log out. Let me log back in as admin because I'm logged in as a limited user, and that was actually on purpose because I was part of something I'm going to demo at the end. But let me log back in as an admin here. Okay, we'll give this a chance here for a minute. While this loads, can you go in the chat box and tell me what feature it's exciting you? What feature are you looking forward to the most from everything that we mentioned? We'd love to know what your thoughts are while I load this in. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go into banking, bank feeds, bank feed center. Okay, and the one thing that you're gonna immediately notice when you open bank feeds, it is the overall look, right? The overall look has been improved. It looks similar to QuickBooks Online, which, by the way, that is a compliment because the reason why, what basically took me over the edge from being a QuickBooks Online hater to a QuickBooks Online lover was bank feeds, right? So I think that it was smart to model after QuickBooks Online for the bank feeds, particularly because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And mimicking it, I think it's a good idea, although it lacks originality per se. But I don't care if it works really well and it's best in class. Why not? Okay, so all right, so my overall criticism, I would say that my only overall criticism of this feature is this big, huge white space in the top. Like there's no button to collapse that. I think that this is like I'm gonna collapse the left navigation bar. This is taking like 40% of my screen. Now, although I find it useful, there's going to be some really useful data here when we have all the active accounts connected. But we need to collapse that. Absolutely, we do need to collapse that. And what I hate about white space is that it makes me feel that Intuit will put an ad in there somewhere. So yeah. So I don't need any white space. I would love that to be collapsed. But there's some really positive things about this top card. One of it is the drop down menu here, so you can quickly switch across accounts with the drop down menu, all your bank accounts, all your credit card accounts. You can also switch across the accounts by actually clicking on each of these item cards. Okay, and it will give you, it's a really clear number here, your ending balance, your QuickBooks balance, and the number of transactions. Now you're going to see something new, which is going to be 4 tabs. You're going to see recognized, partially recognized, uncategorized, and added to register. Partially recognized is actually the one that I'm most intrigued in. I have not tested this enough to tell you exactly how this is going to work. I'm probably going to do a follow-up video on partially recognized as I have enough transactions there to test. But I can tell you about unrecognized, recognized, and added to register. So unrecognized would be your list of pending transactions to categorize. Now, one thing that you will notice is every one of these columns is sortable. Okay, just click on it and is sortable. This is technically not a new concept. In the old version of bank feeds, the columns were sortable too, but it was kind of like, like making a prayer, click on it and hope that it actually works. So now this sortable works really, really well. It's really, really sharp. The text is nice and big. The contrast is great. There's a column here where I can choose what columns I want to see and not see. I like this. I always like customizability of columns because every user is different, every use case is different, and people will use these columns differently based on their needs. The column that is missing in this case is the customer job. We would love to see customer job in here. It would be a game changer to be able to see customer job in here. Now let's do a couple of these. Let's say the first one, I'm going to go ahead and type Amazon. Hit tab, it works great. Bank memo in this case is blank. I can type something in here. I can put ink, right? That's awesome. That's amazing. Believe it or not, I'm actually an easy person to please. I'm a simple man, right? Memo boxes, memo boxes, readily available, one tab away. It's this type of stuff that makes me happy, right? So thank you Intuit for doing that. I didn't even ask for that. They did that. I guess somebody else suggested that. I love that, right? You have no idea the power of an empty memo box readily available. Hey, and if you don't want to use it, get rid of it, right? I love that, right? I can use it, I cannot use it. I got total choice and control. At the end of the day, this is what I want. I want choice and control. All right, so bank memo, again, I'm going to put here, type here ink or whatever it is. Account, this works the same way as always. I can type office supplies in there. I can type office expenses, office supplies, whatever it is. Tab over to the tab and go into classes, pick my class, and then click on add. Okay. You can also click on the drop down menu next to add, and you will have choices which are not new. Choices like add more details, match to existing transactions, and ignore. That's not new. That's been available for several years. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add, and I will add the transaction in there. Now, one thing that I like is with this new version, bank feeds doesn't start making a bunch of assumptions of what transactions are. It looks like in this new version, you kind of have to hard code these these rules in order for QuickBooks to make guesses. On the older versions of QuickBooks Desktop Bank Feeds, QuickBooks started creating or suggesting categories and stuff like that, and that's what uh, that messed with most people's heads, honestly. So I think that it's better like this. Okay, try to make it, let's call it less intuitive per se, make people work for it a little bit more because because again, I think a lot of problems arise from QuickBooks suggesting things to users and users just doing whatever they want. Now let's talk about the detail screen. Let's say, for example, I got an expense that I want to split. I can click on the drop-down menu next to add and click on add more details, and I can come in here and split this up. So let's say I'm going to have office expenses and click on add line and then have materials. I can easily split these up. One thing that I hate is that I can't use the inline calculator on the screen. So if I wanted to divide this in half, 18, 18.18 divided by 2, I get an error because whatever, because the Intuit programmers couldn't figure out that if something works in one screen, like the inline calculator, as a user, I am expecting this to work everywhere else. But I understand that maybe they have to now program a built-in calculator into the screen because this screen is not using the core QuickBooks Desktop features. It's basically sort of a new thing. So I hate that. We could do it with a calculator. Let's see what happens. Let's do it. Let's do it the equal sign. No, it doesn't work. It's a good suggestion, but no. So the inline calculator doesn't work. I hate that. Is my pet peeve that you give it, and then take it away. I assume it does work throughout the rest of QuickBooks. This might just be a thing on the bank feed screen. So into it, I'm sure you're gonna be watching this and hating all my negative comments, but this is real. This is the real struggle that we deal with. I don't want to remember which screens have an inline calculator and don't. That adds to frustration. All right, so I'm gonna click on save and add, and that's how you do a split transaction. Now let's go over bank rules real quick. So I'm gonna go up here to rules, and the bank rules they look a lot like QuickBooks Online, which is awesome. I'm going to click on add rule, and let's call this Amazon, and we'll call this, or we'll make this a money out rule. And as long as the description contains Amazon, let's do Amazon.com, Amazon.com, and I'm also going to add line and do matches. Let's do matches Amazon, and let's do contains AMZ. I think those are the abbreviations that Amazon gives you. So we're gonna call this Amazon, make this office expenses, and let's say we want to put this into the overhead class. Then I'm gonna click on save, and that creates the rule. So in theory, if the rules are working correctly, I will go back here and QuickBooks will recalculate and send some transactions over to recognize. So now notice that almost all my Amazon stuff was moved from unrecognized and now it's moved to recognize. So now you can see all the transactions that were recognized. What's really cool about just the recognize filter is I can hit the checkbox here and it will select all, and then I can go to batch actions and click on add confirm, and it will confirm all transactions in one shot. Now that's technically not new, but I'm kind of just showing you the dynamic of how it works now. Now if I wanted to make this webinar 100% about bank feeds, I would, because quite honestly, this is the only feature that truly excites me on 2021. But I kind of want to shorten this. I want to there's a link in the slides for a full video I did. I posted in YouTube if you want to see that. Now, I'll show you one more thing here. I'm going to sort this by downloaded as, and I'm going to take several transactions. Let's say, for example, these American Airlines transactions. I'm going to click on the first one. I'm clicking on the first one, and then I'm going to scroll down to the last American Airlines transaction. I'm going to hold the Shift key. This is it, guys. Shift click. This is huge. Hold the Shift key. Click on the last one. Okay, that was embarrassing. Okay, that didn't work this time. What the heck? All right, that's embarrassing, QuickBooks. Very embarrassing. Let me go back and see what I did. All right, let's see how I did it. It worked right before that. So let's do the first one. Let's do they hold the Shift key. Okay, there we go. So it has to be done in order. If you click one somewhere in the middle, Shift click doesn't work. Okay. All right, we'll take it with what we got. So we click on the first one, just one, then scroll all the way down, hold the Shift key, and it selects all in one shot. Sorry, that was kind of anticlimactic, but it's quirky. It's got its things. But once you select them all, now it can classify them all in one shot. Ready? Batch actions, modify. Again, if you're a QuickBooks Online user, I know you're used to this. You already have this. Um, Now, the only thing is when you do a batch modify, you can only do them if they're all debits or if they're all credits. So in this particular situation, I cannot do any of the ones that are credits. So I would have to exclude the credits, which I can do with the filter button. So I can click on the filter button on the right and then only show the credit card charges. Let's just skip the credits. And then let's do that again. Let's sort that by American Airlines and only do it by credit. Go back to that. Let's go back to American Airlines. Oh, that also, by the way, there's a glitch in this on this R1 that whenever you run the filter, so I did a filter and then you resort, the filter stops working, right? So again, this is more of a programmatical error that we're dealing with at the moment. I've already told the powers that be what's going on. They're gonna be looking into it. So in this particular case, I'm gonna be interrupted with my awesome presentation and workflow by manually unchecking that credit card credit and then going back to batch actions and clicking on modify. And then in here, I'm gonna pick American Airlines. Okay, quick add vendor. I know that if you've been using QuickBooks Online, this is boring because you're used to seeing this. But if you are a desktop user primarily, and you might be seeing this for the first time, this is really awesome, right? So I can pick my class, pick my account, save it, automatically classifies everything. I can do batch actions, add and confirm, and it adds all the transactions in one shot. And I'm not forced or required to create a rule. So you can batch by creating a rule, or you can batch doing shift click. The last thing I'll mention, which to me, it's very, very big news, big news, like bigly, huge news, bigly, okay? Which is this little search box here where I can type any text and it will grab the text from the memo or the description and filter those transactions. So I'm going to type the word Miami and hit tab, and this only shows me the transactions in Miami. The reason why this is big is because your client may come to you and tell you, hey, all the Paris transactions, that's all personal expenses. So I don't have to sit there and try to, Google all the things are in there, or read through the column and try to read between the lines to see that this is a transaction in Paris. In many cases, the vendors themselves contain the name of the city, or in the description contains the name of the city. So what you can quickly do is, based on that, you can do little searches, and then you can classify all these things as personal, whatever it happens to be. So I'm gonna send these all to owners, personal expense or whatever, because they told me we were in Miami for a home vacation, and that's for a personal family vacation, and that has nothing to do with business. So that's really cool, really neat having that little search box there. So that's my fascination with bank feeds. As I mentioned earlier, there is in the slides there is a link you can click to watch kind of a 20-minute YouTube video that I did breaking down what I love about it. And I've also told you the bugs that it has. It's got some bugs. It's got some bugs, but the bugs are fixable. I've spoken to their product management team, and they were very receptive and thankful that I brought out the bugs. So I'm hoping that some of these bugs get addressed in the next couple of months. Bottom line, the verdict is congrats into it. You guys have finally done something that will encourage me to tell my clients, yes, you should fork up the extra money, and yes, you should upgrade to 2021. It's been many years since I've said that to a customer, right? Most of the time it's like, yeah, upgrade or don't upgrade, up to you. But this year, yeah, especially if they fix those little bugs, this is going to be an immediate, instant gratification satisfaction you're going to get from increased productivity in bank feeds. All right, next one, next feature. All right, we got that one out of the way. So customer groups. So this is an interesting one. In the Pro Premier world, it might not seem as valuable, but as we get to the enterprise platinum world, this is going to be extremely valuable. So a customer group basically allows you to take a whole bunch of customers that have similar attributes. It could be customer type, it could be the country they're in. There's different attributes, and you group them together. Once the customers are grouped together, then you use that grouping to create this new feature called payment reminders, which automatically prompts you to email customers that haven't paid you, or to do statement automation, which allows you to send statements in batch. These two things, or these two concepts, are new 2021 features, but they piggyback on customer group. Now, the one thing that I think is huge, I mean, and again, I know that I make a big deal. I make a really big deal about little things, but this is a little thing that can turn into a big thing. This has a feature that once you set up the customer group, you can click on this checkbox that says automatically add or remove customers from this group based on conditions. What this means is that this grouping is dynamic or virtually dynamic. So as you create new customers, you don't have to go back into the group configuration and add the new customer in there. In other words, the rule, let's call it the rule, it's like a rule, the rule will continue to add or remove customers based on those moving conditions. This is a fundamental shift on the logical thinking of the programmers in the QuickBooks world because before this, there wasn't anything else like this. Like before this, when you create any sort of grouping, you do it once, you do it in batch, and then if there's a change, you have to go back and actually change the fundamental setting or that grouping manually. This was used with batch invoicing. Batch invoicing has been existing since 2012, I believe. This was the issue with batch invoicing, where you had to like re-add new customers into that group for batch invoicing. So this is huge. It's a great feature. I love it. That little featurette, being able to add or remove the customers to the group as conditions change. Now, as you move into the enterprise diamond world, these customer groups and vendor groups, because vendor groups will be available in enterprise, will be piggybacking on the new data level user permissions, which we'll do a demo on shortly. And let me add, before we do the demo on this, I'm going to add my observations on this. One is this feature cannot really be used in any other context, so it's sort of stuck in this automatic invoice sending and invoice payments and data level permissions. It's not available in reports or filters. My biggest pet peeve in QuickBooks new features in general is when they release a new feature and they don't release the accompanying report. So to me, it's a huge wasted opportunity because the accompanying report typically is that decision making tool or that organization, that planning tool that we need in order to confirm if that feature was worth doing or if the feature has been configured correctly. So they have not created a report of these customer groups. They have not uh, given us a ability to use it as a filter. And to me, that's a big shortfall. I hope that they come back and are able to pull this data for reports in the future. Okay. Now, I don't like that I can't see when I'm inside the customer center or when I'm looking at a customer. I can't see what group they belong to. I mean, I can see their terms, I can see the customer type, but this feature kind of sits in a sort of separate table, and it doesn't. There's no visibility to that customer group in your regular customer center activities. Okay, so that to me, those are like sort of my my little pet peeves about it. Let's go into the product and take a look at customer groups so we understand it a little bit better, and then we'll talk about automated statements. So I'm going to go into the customer center, and this is our regular customer center that we're used to looking at. If I go and double click on any of my customers, customers will have attributes, right? They'll have addresses, they will have payment terms, they will have sales tax settings, they will have a customer type, they will have reps, right? They're going to have all sorts of attributes, right? What the new customer groups will do is will piggyback on those attributes. So let's take a look at that, and I'm gonna go into, I believe it's under customers, or actually, forgot where they. This is a brand new. Okay, it's under list, right? So we're gonna go into list and click on manage groups. As I mentioned earlier, Pro Premier Accountant users will only see customer groups. Enterprise Platinum and Diamond users will see both customer group and vendor group. So we're going to go into customer group and show you kind of how this works. I created two customer groups based on the customer type. So we got retail customers and commercial customers. I'm going to click here and edit and show you how that works, and show you that I basically told the customer group rules. I said, look, if the customer is an active customer and they're also a retail customer, sorry, I'm going to give you a suggestion. When you're speaking for an hour straight, try to drink some water in the before you get a cough attack. All right. Um, can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. I muted myself for a second. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, all right. So anyway, when you're building a customer group, you're going to be using multiple rules. You're going to be using multiple attributes of that customer to create that customer group. In this case, I chose that the customer is retail customer type and it's active. I have a couple of other attributes I can use. I can go by sales rep, credit limit, open balance, country, and state. I wish there was more things here like payment terms. That would be nice. A specific custom field that would be nice as well. But this is what they've given us so far. So if you can group your customers by any of these dimensions, you will do it in this group. I'm going to click on next here, and then I'm going to show you all the customers that are here because they are part of those attributes. So as you can see here, we see all the customers. Notice that this customer here, Hector Garcia G, he is part of this customer group. Now I'm going to show you this kind of how this works dynamically. This checkbox, which is the one that I was praising, automatically add or remove customers based on the fields. This makes it a dynamic field. So if I finish this and I got this customer group set up like this, and I go into my customer center and I change any of the attributes of this customer, in this case, the attributes that we're using in this case, which is the customer type or whether the active status is in there, I'm going to change the customer type on this and then click OK. And then we're going to go back into the screen and edit and show you how that customer now falls off the list, right? So there it is. He fell off the list. This is new conceptually in terms of programming system logic. This is new in the QuickBooks world, having a list that is dynamic, which I think is huge, not just because of this feature, because I wish we can get this in other places like, custom reports where you can add additional accounts that are under a particular account category or sub accounts. I mean, there's all sorts of places where I can think this would be a really neat sort of featurette, like having a list or a rule that is dynamic from that perspective. Price rules works like this. So I'll go back and retract that this doesn't work in any else. Price rules works like this too. Like the price rules are using attributes like all the time, or the advanced price rules anyway, to change this. But in terms of uh, the potential dynamic that this can have, especially when you're creating these groups, I think this is huge. Now, these groups are useful in two ways. One, you see it in this group, you can click on actions and click on email. So that's usefulness number one. Basically, I can draft an email to be sent to all those customers. So if you want to send them an offer, a promotion, all within QuickBooks to everybody in that customer group, you can do that. So that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so that's the reason why this is valuable. Number one. Reason why this is valuable. Number one. Reason why this is valuable. Number two is the next feature, which is the payment reminders. So I'm going to go here to customers. I'm going to click on payment reminders and I'm going to click on schedule payment reminders. So as I mentioned earlier, payment reminders will piggyback on this customer group. Now from here, I'm going to just going to kind of delete the one that's here and I'm going to create a new payment reminder for invoices. So what I can do is I can say, look, all my customers that are in the customer group of retail customers, I want you to add a reminder on, let's say, on 30 days after the due date, letting people know that their invoices is due. So what this will do eventually is 30 days after invoice is due, you're going to get a pop-up on your screen saying, would you like to draft these reminders? You click on a button, click send, and QuickBooks will automatically email everybody that reminder because that email is due. This doesn't happen behind the scenes. This won't do it without you looking. The reminders is a workflow into a screen where you can press a button and eventually do the batching. But all the work gets done for you. Now, these reminders, I mean, you have a couple of things you can do. One thing that this is missing is ability to CC or BCC yourself. I don't know why they excluded that. I wish that they had added the option to add the BC or BCC in the programming. But once you do the batching, at that point, then you can choose to do the BCC. So it's not programmatically in this screen, but it will be on the batching screen when it's time to hit send. So it's there, but it isn't. The next one is going to be statement. So this is pretty cool. To me, this is kind of like groundbreaking feature because we've needed this for a very long time, which is ability to automate the statement. So I can click on statement and I can say, look, all my commercial customers, I want to send a statement, let's say on the first of every month, and I will pick the statement period. Now, I like the choices that they've given us here, but we're missing, to me, the most important one, which is last month. We don't have last month here. So you can either, I mean, you do have last month by itself, but you don't have, let's say, this fiscal year to last month or all dates to last month. That would be nice. The most common statements that people send are previous month, granted, right? So at the first day of the month, I want QuickBooks to generate my statement for last month. That's going to be very functional right off the bat. In many cases, maybe you want to do it on the 10th to give you a 10-day grace period to make sure that you're applying all the payments and adding all the invoices for that month. So this feature as is, as you're looking at it with the previous month option, will probably be the most common one being used. But I wish there was one called this fiscal year to last month. So we're missing that. That would be really, really neat. Because they have this current year to current month, but that's useless to me if I'm doing the statement as of the 10th, because typically on the 10th is when I'll send the statement ending on the 31st or the 30th of last month. So I'm missing current fiscal year to last month, and we're also missing all dates to last month. Those are the two in my wish list that I wish they would add that. And I did tell somebody at Intuit that I wanted that. So let's see if they have time to add that on 2021. Maybe you have to wait for 2022. Who knows? And then you can choose your template if you got multiple email templates or multiple statement templates. The same features you have in all the statements. Add the memo, add the item details, add the due date, or generate a separate statement for each job instead of each customer. So this is really, really cool. It basically automates the batching of sending these statements. To me, this is huge. This is a really, really useful feature. This would be the second one that I found exciting on 2021 on top of bank feeds. Okay, so those are those. Let me go back into the slides here, make sure I'm not missing anything. So that was customer groups and automated statements. Okay. Oh, also to mention, I wish that they had added the ability to add a payment link so customers can e-pay the entire balance of that statement. I think I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about QuickBooks Mac 2021. They figured out how to do it in Mac 2021 where you can add a QuickBooks electronic payments link or button so people can pay the entire statement. So they didn't do it for Windows, but to me, it's probably they're probably going to be able to do it because if they figure it out on the Mac, they're going to do it on the Windows side. But I'm kind of disappointed that that wasn't released in this feature. Like I think this feature would have been truly complete in the sense of statement automation. It would be truly complete if you can add that in there. So that's just those are the notes on that. Now, for marketing purposes, they're calling it send statements automatically or automated statements or something like that. But this in QuickBooks is called payment reminder. So it's just what the feature is called in QuickBooks and in marketing, it's different, but it's essentially the same thing. The other really cool thing that they added was the ability to customize a receipt payment. Now, if you remember, especially if you're a QuickBooks desktop nerd like I am, in 2020 they added the ability to email a customer receipt to the customer. So the customer paid you and you can email them a receipt for the payment, not a receipt for the invoice, a receipt for the payment. So acknowledging that we received that payment. That's new for 2020. But you couldn't change or modify the template for that payment. So new for 2021, you can now change or modify the template for that payment. I don't have anything negative to say about this. I think this was executed perfectly. It's a very simple feature. It's not something that most people will upgrade over by itself, but I think that it's perfect. I think it was overdue. Uh, it was probably, necessary to have it last year. But this is actually pretty cool. Someone in the comments is saying that payment receipts for nonprofits are really valuable, right? Because maybe you're not ready to send an invoice. You probably invoice them at the end of the year to consolidate those payments. Or when people tithe or whatever to a church, they're sending money randomly all the time without an invoice. And this could be a way you can give somebody a payment receipt. Although I would say, Sarah, that for this I would probably do a sales receipt instead. But I would see why it would be good to then be able um, to kind of control the invoicing after the fact and be able to give people their partial payment receipts as we go. So I'm going to go into customers and click on receive payments. Again, like I said, I think this feature was executed flawlessly, so it's worth demoing. I'm going to click on format and notice that there's you can choose different payment templates. So I'm going to click on my payment template, click on customize data layout, and there it is. So now I can take my payments and I can use the full layout designer to design this. Now, for some people, this might be like, this doesn't seem like a new feature. Like we've been able to modify templates all the time. True. Invoices, sales receipts, sales orders, POs, and estimates. But for payments, you were never able to do that before. Now we can add a logo, we can add fields, we can say thank you. We can actually say thank you in our payments, right? Thank you for paying us, adding some notes. We will be sending you an invoice at the end of the year with the details of what your money went to or whatever, right? So this is actually pretty cool. I love it. Again, like I said, executed flawlessly. This feature is so well done that it doesn't feel like a new feature. It feels like completely integrated to what we're used to seeing in the QuickBooks world. One thing that's important to mention, you can have multiple templates, but also in the settings somewhere, I think it's under payments maybe. You can choose what the standard template is. So although you can have multiple payment templates depending on the context and the customer or the type of payment that it is, we can pick our default one as well. So really awesome. I mean, like I said, great job to a development team on this feature. I got nothing constructive to say about it. I think that this was a home run. Although it's not a huge feature, still a home run no matter what. All right, so improve matching workflow. I don't have an active account with payments in 2021 yet because that would require me to have a real account upgraded to 2021. I'm not ready to do that. But I took this screenshot from the Firm of the Future website and I did some beta testing. And basically, they've really, really improved the workflow of matching your QuickBooks payments and that batch deposit into the invoices. It's a little bit, it's a more intuitive and it's less propense for people to create duplicates because this has always been the issue where people duplicate the payments that are coming from QuickBooks payments and also putting them in QuickBooks. So this feature is going to more likely this feature is going to reduce the 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 confusion on matching QuickBooks payments in in QuickBooks Desktop. Now, a couple of honorable mentions, and I'm going to mention them as honorable mentions because I don't consider any of these things to be like features per se, but they're going to be in the marketing messaging. So I want to not be the guy that doesn't include the marketing messaging. They got this improved desktop manager, which is basically like a little window that allows you to log in into your Camps account, download QuickBooks, download your upgrades. Basically, it makes it a little less confusing to find your QuickBooks licenses and download QuickBooks. But if you ever use camps.intuit.com, there's absolutely no need for the improved desktop manager. In their marketing message, they're talking about the QuickBooks Tool Hub, which is a set of tools to troubleshoot issues and network. This has been available since 2018, but they never really made a big deal about it marketing wise. Um, so it's worth mentioning again as an honorable mention, but it's not really a new feature. Not it's 2018, so not any by no stretch of the imagination per se. All right, so the last one is QuickBooks Capital integration. Again, this is not a feature, right? QuickBooks Capital, it's a service. They will lend you money, they'll charge you interest. The fact that they're integrating QuickBooks to QuickBooks Capital, it's a no-brainer to me. So this is a non-feature, but but I guess it'll make it easier for you to apply for a loan, but this affects a very small percentage of people. That's why I put it in this honorable mention category. All right, let's talk about the big one, the biggest one, which is a new receipt management feature. Like I said, most of you on this call, most end users, most laymen are going to be looking at this, and this is going to be the sexy new thing that QuickBooks can do. I will tell you up front, and I want to be on the record on this. When I was doing beta testing, I refused to beta test this feature. When I was asked for feedback about it, I refused to give feedback on this feature. In my personal opinion, this is a complete waste of resources. QuickBooks could be spending whatever they spend here into fixing other problems. However, and a big however, it seems to kind of work. I've been testing it. It seems to kind of work. Basically, there's a phone app. I downloaded that as well, of course. Let me I'll open it up here real quick so you can see it. So it's basically a phone app. I'll put it on the camera here. I'll put it on the camera here. So it's got a phone app. I can take a picture of a receipt. Obviously, I'm taking a picture of myself. You take a picture of a receipt, and then it goes into a screen where you basically give it a name and a description. Click on upload, and it uploads into the cloud, and then it downloads into QuickBooks Desktop. Now, for that to work, you need to have an Intuit login, and this is a service. Remember, Intuit is now investing resources. You got the server getting the receipts and bringing them into desktop. So because of that, they're only including this in their subscription products. This is why you will only see receipt management in Plus or Enterprise. Now, I kind of like that because now I can hold their feet to the fire and say, hey, I'm paying for this feature because I'm paying for the subscription, so this better work, right? It's not like in the desktop features where, hey, it's a features attached to desktop. You bought the software, and you're done. I'm actually paying extra per year, especially for Pro Premier users. I'm paying extra per year to get this feature, so it better work. So I think where I see the silver lining is they probably have enough budget to continue to make sure that this feature works. Now, all the categorization happens in QuickBooks Desktop, not in the app. This is fundamentally different than taking pictures with QuickBooks Online on a receipt. When you do that in QuickBooks Online, you can do the categorization on QuickBooks Online. This happens all in the in the desktop app. So you're not going to choose any categories or add a class or a customer job. None of that stuff happens on the phone app, right? Phone app is just take the picture, upload, and then it goes into QuickBooks Desktop. So now you need to integrate the receipt into your data flow into your data workflow, and it attaches a receipt automatically to the transaction. Now, some observations, things that I don't like about this app, and the reason probably why, like I said, I didn't want to spend that much time on this feature is there's going to be a processing delay because it's obviously over the web. You're using a mobile phone. I don't have an issue with that, but there's OCR work. So Intuit is going to try to read this information and dissect it for you, make it easier for you to to understand it. Maybe they'll extract the payee name or the categories or the dollar amounts out of it, and that's the way it works with QBO. So I think that's a good thing, but again, it delays the process. So usually QuickBooks Desktop people are not so much open to like delaying something because it's cloud based. This is the reason why people stay in desktop. They don't want to deal with cloud based delays. Um, the other thing is you can't pick what user has access to this. So as long as people have that Intuit account and that Intuit account is logged in, is synced to QuickBooks, anybody essentially with access to the Intuit account can upload receipts. In an enterprise world, this is just not going to fly. We need to have different users uploading receipts, and the context of which user uploads a receipt is important for the accountant because the business owner uploading a receipt of a meal is not the same thing as a line level employee uploading the receipt of a meal. There's different contexts. So that's missing completely. They completely missed the mark on that. And there's no receipt to email feature like QBO has, where we can just email a bill or an invoice to a specific email and it forward to this. That's not available. I don't think it's difficult to uh, to uh, to design. I'm sure Intuit will figure this one out. but it's just not available yet. And the last one is there's no concurrent interactivity with bank feeds. That means that you could enter something in receipts and enter something in bank feeds and duplicate it. So if you're not paying really close attention to which of the transactions are going to go through receipt management first and which ones to bank feeds, you will have that issue. Right now, if you enter it in receipt management first and it posts, then it will match in bank feeds. That's great. But if you enter it in bank feeds and then you upload it to receipt management and you post it, you duplicate them. You cannot match them in receipt management. So, and that's something that QuickBooks Online is tackling and working with, and they're still kind of figuring out how to fix the concurrent interactivity because it's just a lot of duplicate transactions. So again, look, this webinar is not about like the roses and the what's the other thing? The birds and the bees and the roses. I'm just being upfront with you. I'm excited about 2021. Yes, I'm excited about bank feeds, but a lot of these new features are flawed in nature, and I think a lot of it is because, in my opinion, they choose to focus on the wrong things sometimes. But but they focus on the stuff that makes their marketing team exciting, or the stuff that looks pretty on a website. Upgrade to 2021. We got receipt management. What they fail to understand is receipt management is a humongous problem. I mean, you got you got Expensify, you got Receipt Bank, you got these companies that have been tackling this for years and they're still tweaking, right? So again, I think core QuickBooks desktop users care more about inventory management, data stability. This is the type of stuff. Again, it will sell, it will sell to a few end users, but hardcore users like me, they don't get excited about this thing because we know that this is probably going to be mostly for show. Again, I want to say for the record, I want to be proven wrong. And if I'm proven wrong, I will do a video, I will apologize, and I will show you my excitement about it. But I can't just blindly be excited about something that just doesn't work well. Okay, it's bottom line. So again, the point is the app itself takes the picture and uploads it to desktop, and the app itself doesn't do anything else, which I like. I actually kind of like that. All right, to just make the app a capture, because if you the minute you start adding features to the app, then you're gonna have a whole bunch of people then asking, hey, wait a second, add this feature, add that feature. That complicates the situation. So I think it was a good idea, honestly. It was a good idea to make the app a dumb app that only takes pictures and uploads it to desktop. Okay, let me show you. I'm going to show it to you real quick. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think it's a waste of time for everybody to even think of this as a real feature, but I'll show it to you anyway. So I'm going to go into, I believe it's banking, bank feeds, or is it under vendors? Vendors, there is under vendors. Vendors receipt management. So I'm gonna go into receipt management. You have to log in to a QuickBooks to like a Intuit account. So that's the only way it will work. Okay. Um, right now on the screen, you actually have the ability to upload your own receipts. So you don't necessarily have to take a picture of it and go straight from app or only use a phone app to desktop. You can literally just go to browse upload, and I can grab any of these receipts. And just for the record, I'm going to show you what the receipt looks like, right? So I'm going to show you. It's a straightforward receipt, right? There's like nothing tricky about this. It's a straightforward, simple, easy to read receipt. I'm going to upload it super clear, go to open, and then I have to wait, right? So I gotta wait. So I don't. Nothing frustrates me more than having to wait because that's not how QuickBooks Desktop users work. We don't do things to wait for something to happen on the cloud. That's not how we function. So this as the process may take up to 15 minutes. I'm actually going to um, skip out of this and then I'm gonna finish the presentation. We probably got about 15 minutes and then we're gonna cross our fingers that it does take 15 minutes and the receipt actually shows up in here. And probably it won't, which is the reason why I'm a huge critic of this feature from the get-go because again, I don't see anyone saying, I love this. I upload things and I wait. That's just not a thing. All right, let's open up here. Let's go to the next one. And wait, I broke something. No, okay. Did I break something? Hold on a second. Oh, okay, my screenshot died. Okay, so there's for some reason the screenshot is not showing up, so I apologize for that. I'm gonna have to fix this. But batch delete sales orders is the next feature that is that we're gonna showcase. So this is actually pretty cool. I think in many ways this is flawlessly executed. So good job into it for that. And basically you go into where is it? Is it under company, accountant tools? And void batch void delete transactions. So this tool was added, I believe, in 2016. The batch void delete, and it only had invoices, checks, and bills. Or I think it only had invoices and bills, and they added checks. I mean checks later. I forget exactly how it was, but sales orders is a new thing. Okay, so when you click on sales orders, it will give you a list of all your sales orders, a whole bunch of like open status sales orders, and and in my opinion, the clients that I deal with, inventory wholesale manufacturers, that have like 100 sales orders, 1,000 sales orders that are old from years past. This is huge. I mean, this is like wow, finally, finally, we have a way to kind of just clean out those old sales orders that were causing all these issues. Before this, you would have to literally go into each sales order and close it one by one. So now I have the ability to either select a whole bunch of old sales orders that I don't need anymore and delete them. Now, for some reason, there's no void option, even though the batch delete and void works for invoices, bills, and checks. But for some reason, I cannot void the underlying sales order. I can only delete it. I don't know who went into it figured this was useful, even though the void feature is like one button away. I think I would have been happier with having either a void feature or a batch close feature, so I don't have to like delete the sales order completely. Maybe I just want to uh, uh, batch close it, right? Because maybe I still want to see it, but I don't want it to still show open. So I think the missed opportunity here was either to have this void feature or actually a batch close feature. That would have been my preference. However, batch delete is useful. Nonetheless, batch delete is useful. It's nice, especially with old transactions with big QuickBooks desktop files, bloated QuickBooks desktop files. It would have been really nice to have a batch uh, 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 close, but a batch delete will help. I think it will help. All right. So that's batch delete. Again, I think it was executed really well by design, but I think there were shortcomings in the design itself. The next one, which I'm not going to showcase, which is kind of, I don't even wouldn't call this a feature, but it's awesome. I love it, which is if you're printing labels with barcodes, which QuickBooks allows you to do, you can print the price. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Most QuickBooks Enterprise users don't have a retail store, and the price in the barcode label is not as useful. However, I liked having this. Like I wouldn't take it away. I think that it's great that they added this. It would be great if I can customize the label even further and add more stuff. Could I add a custom description? Could I add a custom field? Could I add a picture? I mean, all those things would be really cool to be able to do in this barcode labels. However, this is a very niche market. It's a very um, small group of people that actually print barcode labels. But nonetheless, thank you Intuit for adding the price on that. That's a cool feature, nonetheless. Okay, so we got the last feature here. I know we went way over the hour, and I apologize that um, I talk too much or a lot. It's my nature. This is like okay, this is Christmas in September for me, right? New versions of QuickBooks Desktop is Christmas. I went to sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, preparing these last night, playing with, playing with it, making sure that I hit all the points, and making sure that I'm delivering to you the things that I'm immediately catching as something wrong with them. I'm sure I haven't cut all of them, and I'm sure I'm being harder on it than what I should. And on release 2 or release 3, it might get better. Okay, it might get better, but this is what we have, right? Okay, so data level permissions. So this is really cool. This is something that we've been looking at and beta testing for like several years, honestly. This was first introduced to us, to like the beta testers and the resellers, like a couple years back, but it's just been difficult to implement, and I understand why. This is a huge thing. This is a major thing. This is not like a simple thing to add, because they need to layer this on top of current user permissions. And the way the QuickBooks Desktop is designed, current user level permissions are like at the core of the software, and they have to like kind of add this all on the top, and they have to figure out how to get both of these things to interact. And as I'm playing with it, I am just realizing the enormity of this issue. However, what we got so far works really really good, and I'm excited for this. As a QuickBooks Enterprise nerd, I'm very excited for this, and I think this first step is great. It's a lot more work to do. So the premise is you group your customers and your vendors using the customer group and vendor feature. Then you can select which user will have either view, modify, delete, print, or view balance permission to that specific customer or vendor. This is the most common use case. Hector, I have a Salesforce. I have 6 salespeople. I don't want one salesperson to be looking at the sales of the other salesperson. I don't want one salesperson to be looking at the balances of a customer that belongs to another salesperson. I don't want this particular salesperson to be selling to this group of customers, because this salesperson, this rep, has been assigned to this group of customers. That's a huge use case in my world, and this is really, really big. Or I have a particular end user that can only enter bills, it can only enter expenses for a particular vendor. So it will work both ways. Customers or vendors, you can do that. So it's great. So far, I'm excited about this. There are some issues with it. One is, even though you can hide a customer from a user, right? Or you can do a view only access to the user. If the user knows the customer name, they can still manually type it in the screen and create an invoice for them anyway. This to me was, again, I don't think this was done by design. I think it's just someone into it didn't occur to them that someone will try to game the system and just type the customer's name. It doesn't restrict you from doing a transaction with a customer or vendor. It hides it from the view, but it doesn't restrict you if you manually type it. So to me, it's a huge control problem. And the second one is, there's tons of cross-reporting and access challenges that, until we start implementing this and see different use cases, we really don't know where the shortcomings are. Because, for example, if you have access to a balance sheet, give you an example. Let's say you're a user that has access to the balance sheet. You can view a balance sheet, but you can only view balances for a certain group of customers. So what? You're going to show them a balance sheet that's unbalanced, or will you show them the number that includes the balances from the customers you don't have access to? These type of things, these type of use cases are going to come up, and we're going to have to think through. And I say we because I'm involved, very involved with the team on this particular feature. How we're going to solve these problems. So letting you know, it's working well of right off on top. R1, this feature is working really well, but it's got some immediate shortcomings because it's kind of difficult to address. So let me open that up, and that will be the last demo that I'll do. And I'm going to go into company. I'm going to go into users, and then set up users and roles. Okay, and I'm going to create a new user that is going to have limited access to a specific group of customers. Okay, so give me a second. I hate this thing. Okay, so I'm going to go into role list, go to new, and then create a new role for Mike. Okay, so I'm going to call it Mike's role. And let's say Mike is a salesperson. Okay, so Mike can only sell or view commercial customers. Okay, so I'm just putting a description there so you understand the context on how this gets set up. So I'm going to give Mike access to the customer center. I'm going to give them full access, actually, not full access. I'm going to give them custom access to the customer center, and then click on define. This is the new feature right here. This screen, this is it. I'm going to click on define, and then I'm going to say, look, Mike can only view, modify, delete, print, or view balances for commercial customers. Okay, I cannot see anything about retail customers. And I also have this checkbox that says, can Mike create new customers? That's huge. So we didn't have this user permission before where a particular user what had the access to create a new user or not. So that's actually pretty cool because you only had basically modify access to the customer center. So this is really cool. So do we allow them to create a new customer? What's broken here is that you can create a new customer that doesn't fall into the conditions of commercial customers. So those two things are not linked together. Um, so I'm not 100% sure if I want to allow Mike to create new customers, but that's going to be case by case. Either way, I like the fact that this was given to me. Then I'm going to go into customers and receivables, and I'm going to allow Mike to have full access to invoices, to estimates, to sales orders, sales receipts, and let's say customer receive payments. Okay, so essentially, I created a role called Mike that all he does is does sales related transactions for a customer, but only a limited group of customers. So I'm going to click on OK here. Then I'll create a new customer. I'm going to call him Mike. Of course, that's his name, the password. And then I'm going to give Mike only Mike's role, right? Which Mike's role can only, in this case, Mike's role can only sell or view commercial customers, right? So this all this stuff starts making tons of sense. Then I'm going to click on OK. And by the way, it's a really good point, and William Bill Murphy is putting it here, saying, what about employee groups? Because that could be interesting too, of which employees I can have a certain user have access to. Maybe they can view the paychecks of the line level employees, but I don't want them to view the paychecks of the president, vice president, etc. So that's kind of an interesting one too. I wish employee group was included here too. Again, because we got payroll, and payroll is its own like ecosystem of complexity. I'm sure they said, you know what, let's just tweak out customer and vendor issues first before we go into employee groups. So there's Mike role. If I go to view permissions, I can view Mike's permissions, right? I can see that he doesn't have access to any of these things. I can see the specific customers they have access to. So for example, if you go to customer center, it says that they have no access. However, what this really, really means is custom access. So they forgot to add a little word here that says custom access, or it would have been nice that they would have just added their customer group access on the customer's group name. Again, it's a little thing, but it would have been nice. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of QuickBooks. Actually, before I do that, let me go into an invoice and show you all my entire customer list. Look, I got this really big customer list. I can scroll up and down. I'm the admin. I have access to all the customers in the customer list. I'm gonna go into the customer center real quick, and you can see that I got several customers with balances, tons of customers in there. I'm gonna log out, and then I'm gonna log in as Mike. Okay, so log in as Mike, and we can see how this looks different. So let's go to Mike. There we go. So I'm gonna go into the customer center first, and boom, so far so good. This is awesome, right? I logged in as Mike, and I only have access to certain customers. I love that. I love that. And if I wasn't gonna give Mike access to like AR reports, they would only see these customers. This is great. This is huge. I particularly think that this is executed really, really well. The challenge with this is that if I know the customer's name, so if I'm gonna go create an invoice here, okay, I'm limited to these customers. But if I know my customer's name, if I actually know my customer's name, I can type it and I can still create an invoice for that customer. So that's what's broken with it now. But even though that's the case, this is great. Like right now, so far, the execution of this, I'm gonna I'm gonna give it an A, but I'm gonna understand that this is a progress. So I think this is great. Limiting the users that are the customers that a particular users have access to is huge. I love that. Limiting the vendors that a particular users have access to is huge. I love that. So many of my customers ask for that feature. So I think that they hit the nail on the head. It's a great feature. Tons of people are gonna truly appreciate this. All right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up, but I think we were gonna go back and look at the receipt management to see what happened. So let's go back into vendor receipt management. Oh wait, I don't have access to that. Let me go back and log in as admin. Okay, that was the last thing we were gonna see the outcome of the one receipt that I uploaded into receipt management, and let's see what it looks like if it even took. I'm almost guessing that it's still thinking, still processing. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to vendors, receipt management, continue. Okay, we're waiting. But look at this, it's not even like under review or for your review. So I rest my case, right? This is exactly my point, right? Don't do receipt management into it. You're gonna screw it up, and they did it. They screwed it up, right? You saw me do it. I went to upload. I selected the receipt. I hit open. It said uh, it said processing. I went back 15 minutes later. Nothing happened, right? So I hate to be a critic of a business and a company that I own stock in, that I'm part of the Trainer Writer Network. I'm a beta tester. I'm an influencer. My whole livelihood, it's around QuickBooks, right? I build a brand around being an expert at QuickBooks. But this is the type of stuff that just pisses me off, right? I mean, you know you're gonna screw this up. You know how difficult it is to get an app that interacts with the web inside of a desktop software, right? So sorry about that, and thank you for allowing me to rant. So what I'm telling you right now is, if you go and tell your customer, yes, upgrade receipt management is awesome, you are probably going to look bad. Yeah, right. So you probably need to wait until like release 2 or release 3 to see if they can pull this one off. So anyway, I would love to know. I would love to know what you think about this. It's going to be uploaded into YouTube. It's a lot of content. I know you're probably going to have to watch it. Email me if there's something that you think I missed, or if you have any comments, positive or negative, about it. Thank you. We've had like over 300 people watch this live, and we're going to be seeing the recording in YouTube. Just check out the YouTube channel in the next couple hours or so. I gotta have lunch. Thank you very much, guys, and you guys have a wonderful day.